It's an old T-bone walk to you.
All right. Okay. Thank you all for coming to our Volume 2 PechaKucha night. First of all, another round of applause for the Charles Wheel Band. One of the best parts about having these PechaKucha nights is trying to hear everybody pronounce it correctly. So for everyone who's curious the correct way to say it, here's a little video for you.
And many congratulations to you, Shelly. Not sure how to pronounce it. Maybe you can tell us. and all the very kind people who've been helping you pulling off this very first PechaKucha night in Albany. This is Mark Dyson.
This is Astrid Klein.
And we're Klein Dyson Architects over here in Tokyo. 10 years ago, on the 20th of February, we like 20 a lot, we came up with PechaKucha Night. It's a very simple format, as you're going to find out. It's 20 images and 20 seconds each. 6 minutes, 40 seconds later, the next presenter is on. All this to prevent two chatty architects from hugging the mic for too long. And there must have been many people must have had the same problem because PechaKucha Night became very popular and is now in 665 cities around the world.
That's right, and this month there are over 100 events, I think 110 to be exact. And we've been wondering why PechaKucha has become so successful or so popular. I think one of the reasons is we don't charge for the format, it's completely free, and that's really allowed it to spread all around the world. I think the other reason is that probably like in your city too and in Tokyo, there are actually very few places where architects, designers, creative people can show and share their work, especially if you've only got one project, maybe a house of your parents. You can't really get it into a magazine, it's going to be difficult to have a gallery show because you don't have enough images, but you do have 20 which you can show at PechaKucha Night. Hopefully amongst some friends, maybe some press, maybe even a new client or two. Astrid's going to let us know what PechaKucha actually means.
It means the sound of chit-chat in Japanese, as in PechaKucha, PechaKucha, PechaKucha. And yeah, it is a bit of a tongue breaker, and many people don't know how to pronounce it. We don't mind, be creative with it, but what it doesn't mean, it's not pressure cooker, it's not Machu Picchu, and it's not projector night, it's PechaKucha night.
That's right, and over at PechaKucha.org you can find all the latest news. We blog 4 or 5 times a day about all the goings on around the world. So if you're taking photographs tonight, please send them through and we'll blog about your event. If you're taking video with good sound, which we hope you are, please send us through the data and we can convert it into our presentation format to go up on our website. We have over 1,000 presentations online that have been viewed over 2 million times. So it's a really great way for you to show the creativity of Albany out to the rest of the world. So
have lots of fun. PechaKucha!
From Tokyo, have a great, great night. See you soon.
Okay, so now that we're all on the same page of how to say it, PechaKucha, PechaKucha, like I said, have fun with it. Kind of pronounce it how your mouth best works. So this is part of our monthly events here at the Albany Community Center, and they're called At the Center. We have all sorts of things like Berlin-style ping pong. We've had a few bands, movie night. So the last Friday of every month, take a look at your calendar and look at our activity guide and see what the next fun At the Center is coming up. So like I said earlier, this is our second PechaKucha night. So it's volume 2, and the theme is work. So we're going along those same themes. Since we did give you free admission, nothing's free. So everyone's going to have to help clean up after they're here. Yeah, I'm sorry, totally kidding. That was a joke. Okay, let's just kick it off here. So our first presenter is Charles Weitzel, and he is a part of the Albany Fire Department. He's been in the city of Albany since 1994, so almost 20 years, and he is a firefighter paramedic.
Thank you, Liam. Hey, good evening, everybody. Thanks for coming out. Hopefully, I'm going to show you some stuff what we do in the fire department. This first slide shows paramedic Gavin O'Bear doing his daily inspections, making sure that his medications are not expired, checking the ambulance, making sure it's restocked, it's all ready to go. Here we are doing a 35-foot ladder drill. This is one of several drills that we have to do to keep our skills up. This ladder will actually reach to about a 3rd floor window or rooftop. When that doesn't work, we'll always have our 75-foot aerial to help us out. Here we are doing our annual wildland shelter deployment. In this drill, what we're doing is simulating that we're being overrun by wildland fire. And those little orange tents there are typically those silver ones that are going to protect us and prevent us from getting burnt in the event that we're in a bad spot. So here's one of our paramedic interns. The Albany Fire Department contracts with several Bay Area schools, And what we do is we do provide a field internship. We've ended up actually hiring several of our interns. Some of them also have gone to neighboring agencies in different states. Here's one of our firefighters, Keith Stone, inspecting our automatic external defibrillators. And Keith is making sure that the defibrillation pads aren't expired and battery levels are up to par. We have several of them located throughout the city. Here's Lieutenant Orton Blod conducting a business inspection. Oftentimes we find the violations in our inspections are a result of people not having a extinguisher that's been serviced on an annual basis, or they're using extension cords in place of permanent wiring. Here Keith Stone is again teaching a first aid CPR class. These classes we provide several times a year. The fee for these classes are $25 a piece. And I think our next class will be December 14th. So hopefully we'll see you there. So here's firefighter Osuna demonstrating how you put out a fire that is on your stovetop. And what a simple act of taking that lid right there and just putting over on top of that small fire prevents a much larger fire. A lot of people think that it's still okay to throw water or flour on it, and unfortunately that can create other issues. Here's a fire engineer Smith, I should say, installing a photoelectric smoke detector. We in Albany only install photoelectrics. The cost of them is $15, and we'll be more than happy to come out and install a smoke detector in your home. So here we are at a block party in Albany. The kids are having a good time playing around with the hose. We also do a little static display of our engines so that they can walk through and take a look and some of the equipment that we have. If you're interested in having the engine show up to your block party, by all means, make sure that you point that out when you get your permit. And here we are at our pancake breakfast. We got Smokey with two of our junior firefighters. The proceeds from this benefit actually go to support two burn surviving children to go to Champ Camp. This is a great camp, and it helps these kids deal with their physical and emotional problems for a week. It helps to pay for the staff. Here we are with one of our disaster preparedness graduating classes. These individuals have gone through a series of 9 courses, of which we've trained about a little over 400 through our Albany disaster preparedness courses. Here, firefighter paramedic Aubert is starting an IV on one of his patients. He's got his heart monitor to the right there of him. Paramedics in the state of California have to achieve 48 hours of continuing education every 2 years to maintain their paramedic license. And they'll take courses in advanced life support and other classes. So this is a fire that we had on Ramona. Engineer DeRoque is taking about 100 feet of hose to the rear and assisting us. The fire mostly is from the front, so what we're going to do is attack it from the back. So the moral of the story is be careful what you do with linseed oil rags. Here we are. The state OES actually contacted us, and we went down to Southern California area to assist in some of the wildland fires. Here, Captain Wiggins and Engineer Rob are preventing this fire from getting onto this structure and some of the piping in this location. Here is a vehicle accident of us. This individual happened to run into a building off of Cleveland. And this was a very difficult extrication because his foot was actually trapped underneath the brake pedal. You can see some of our Hamatro tools there on the bottom. Occasionally, we have to utilize other agencies in Alameda County, and sometimes based upon what people have in their homes, we're calling out the Alameda County Bomb Squad. And they assist us. They put this explosive material, whatever it may be, in that little container there, and they appropriately dispose of it. We oftentimes have natural, well, I shouldn't say natural, but environmental emergencies. This tends to be one of the bigger ones. This was a result of some oil that washed up as a result of the Costco Busan incident. Most of the environmental emergencies that we have are a result of people illegally dumping in creeks. here we are. Our crew actually is working with several firefighters from around the country as a result of us being called out to assist FEMA with the Hurricane Katrina. And Captain Wiggins and Boydo are working with firefighters in Ohio and throughout the country. And here is your Albany Fire Department. We're currently staffed with 6 personnel on every day. We have a minimum of 4 paramedics, 2 on the ambulance, and at least a paramedic on each of the engines. And both engines have ALS equipment, which is advanced life support equipment, and do everything that we can. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks again to John Weitzel of the Albany Fire Department. Next, we have Erica Lockhart, who is a retired fire department investigator in the city of San Francisco. After retiring, she started volunteering with the Alcatraz and started as an intern working in the new Industries building, which is a brand new open exhibit on Alcatraz. She found great interest in how Alcatraz worked with the island and with the inmates to create new industries, as the building suggests. So please introduce Erica Lockhart.
Hi, this is normally a presentation that would take me an hour to give, so I might be flying through things pretty quickly. This is, a lot of people don't know that Alcatraz goes back to being in business during the Civil War, and there were actually some of the first prisoners on the island were Confederate sympathizers. And some of the other types of prisoners that they had were homosexuals, petty thieves, deserters, kind of like lower level prisoners. And that one grate you saw, that was where they used to put them down in a hole. That was the first prison cell. This is the post-exchange. Prisoners worked in there. A guy was reporting for guard duty, and he wanted to get his hair cut at the barber shop and discovered that his barber with the straight razor had actually killed somebody by slitting their throat. Prisoners actually also, during that period, would take care of children of the families on the island. This is a mock-up of Al Capone's cell in Atlanta prison before he came to Alcatraz. And one of the reasons that he was sent to Alcatraz was because of the corruption, and he had so much influence, they said they were running his criminal enterprise out of the warden's office. They sent Al Capone and most of the people out in extreme secrecy on a train, which was actually transported by barge to Alcatraz. And they were going to treat all of these prisoners the same, get them out of the limelight, because they were terrorizing the Midwest in this gangster period. Here is another one, George Machine Gun Kelly. He worked on the island. Al Capone worked in the laundry, and there's a little book for children called Al Capone Does My Sheets. Machine Gun Kelly worked in the office, and he was known as a very dapper guy and also very sharp with the books. So you would get a book of regulations when you got there. You were entitled to food, clothing, shelter, and medical attention. Anything else you get is a privilege. So they weren't forced to work, and so we have to kind of go from here. Why would they want to work? Well, everybody extend your hands out. If you're 5 foot tall or taller, that is the width of your cell, 5 feet by 9 feet. So you'd want to get out of those cells, right? Another reason to want to get out is you could make a little money. Some of them made somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 to 40 cents an hour during the earlier years of Alcatraz when they first instituted that program. But one of the most important reasons to go to work was to get closer to an area where you could escape. Because some of the places, maybe you didn't have the attention of the guards that you should, or you created a diversion. Or you could get materials that you could use to manufacture things to help you escape. And everybody know you'd have to have a raft or something, right? Or at least some warm clothing. The first guy on your left there is John Giles. He stole military uniforms, which were laundered on the island. And he actually got on a boat, and he thought he was on his way to San Francisco, and the boat was actually going to Angel Island to pick up more clothes. They caught him and brought him back and called him Sarge ever after that. Don't think he liked that too much. Now, this is called the Model Industries Building. It was built during the the military prison period. And the warden didn't like it too much because you can see it's right on a cliff going down into the water. Well, there were 4 escape attempts from that building alone. And out of 14 documented escapes, all 14 had something to do with work, whether it was just the materials stolen or the opportunity. So they built this long building there, the New Industries building. It opened in 1941, and it was a long, straight building. The guards had a good view of the prisoners at all times. And if you look there at the top, there's a gun gallery with a silhouette of a guard, so the guards could always keep an eye on the prisoners down below. But they could still get into some trouble. One time they diverted the guards, and the guards had desks up on platforms. And while the guards were dealing with trouble at one end of the building, some of the prisoners set fire to their desks at the other end of the building. So they had to get in some mischief. This is what the building looks like now. Of course, they did the laundry for the military, and that took up one whole floor. They made cargo nets and rubber mats for the Navy. Of course, in 1941, what did we have? We had Pearl Harbor and entered into World War II. Anyway, here we show some of the prisoners sewing. Tailoring was also a big part of their business going back to when it was a military prison, and they made gloves and uniforms, probably including the same uniforms that they're wearing now. Other federal prisons had different specialties, and they would actually procure some of the other materials they used at the prison from those other prisons. Now here are the people working on the cargo nets for the Navy. The prisoners at Alcatraz actually received a commendation from the Navy for their work. So they were pretty hard workers and weren't always getting into mischief. So then you might want to ask yourself, was this redemptive? Was it something that helped the prisoners? Well, this prisoner you see here, Jim Quillen, he was always trying to escape, worked in the kitchen and made some kind of booze and blew up an ice cream maker. But he was put into solitary for a year, turned his life around, and when he got out of prison, he eventually actually became the head of radiology at a hospital in Marin. Now, this is a painting painted by John Paul Chase, who is one of the longest residents of Alcatraz as a prisoner. As a matter of fact, many people don't think that he even did the crime that he was committed there for, killing of a federal agent. He spent 30 years in prison and ended up dying something like 2 years after he got out. Well, it looks like we're winding down here, but I can't help but bring up the most famous escape. If you've seen the movie Escape from Alcatraz, you know how the prisoners used all the things with the rafts and stuff to get away and made things to help them escape. This reminds me of one more thing. They think that those other prisoners were the reason why Alcatraz was closed down, but that's not entirely true. This reminds me that all the water had to be brought to Alcatraz because there's no water source, and there was no sanitary facilities either. Everything was just dumped into the water. So it would have required extensive refitting to continue using it as a prison, besides other things. And I just want to give a hand here for the National Park Service for making this information available. You can really find out a lot more by going to Alcatraz. Some of the people out there working now, or my favorite things are those birds you see there, counting and protecting them. It's a big nesting site. So I hope you'll go out sometime between February and September and enjoy those birds. Thank you very much.
Okay. Another big thank you to Erica. It was a great presentation. So next we have Erin Smith, who has been with the City of Albany for 3 years now as a program manager in the Public Works Department. Before that, she worked as a wastewater engineer with the City of Oakland, and her academic background is in biology and environmental science. Erin Smith.
Hello, can you hear me? Okay. So tonight I'm going to talk about managing wastewater in the city of Albany. As Liam said, I do work in the Public Works Department. I'm going to start with a little bit of terminology and history before I get into the day-to-day aspects of what work actually means for me. Here in the city, we have a separate sanitary sewer system from our storm drain system. And you'll see in the next slide, manholes that we see in the street are our sewer system that conveys sewage and other gray water from our showers and our sinks. We have a storm drain system. You see the inlets on the sidewalk that conveys urban runoff to the bay without treatment. Our sewage goes to the East Bay Mud Treatment Plant and is treated first. When the city was established, the predominant material that was used for sewer pipes was clay. So the majority of our system right now, which is about 35 miles of main, is clay pipe. And if you think when Albany was established, early 1900s, we fast forward 100 years, a lot of that clay pipe is now deteriorated. And what's happened is a lot of the systems, not just in Albany, but statewide, have started to have overflows and other pipe collapses and threats, if you will, from lack of attention. The regulators passed some comprehensive regulation in the early 2000s for all owners of sewer systems greater than a mile. And what that really meant for Albany was the establishment of a sewer system management plan. And the remaining slides will really go into the details of what our sewer system management plan is and how we implement that on a day-to-day basis. Part of that is first knowing what we have. So when systems were put in, maps were not necessarily created. So the first step was to develop an asset inventory. What do we have? Where are they? What are they made of? What size are they? And we use a GIS system for that, so Geographic Information System. So it allows us to keep our asset inventory current. It also allows us to print maps for our field crew and for our capital planning, and even private property owners use our maps for various things. So here's a sample of what one of our map pages looks like currently. We also do regular maintenance for sewer systems. So sewers require that they be cleaned on a periodic basis. And when our crew goes out to clean sewers, they use a fairly specialized piece of equipment. And the equipment's on the next slide. This slide is actually our maintenance management system. So every pipe segment, so typically a city block's gonna have 2 pipe segments. Each pipe segment has to be cleaned, and it has to be cleaned on a specific schedule depending upon what we see in that pipe. Some tend to be greasy, some tend to have roots. That maintenance management system allows us to track every pipe segment, what we've done on it, and what we need to do on it. This is what you see, you probably see it around town. It's a sewer cleaner. It has the ability to have high pressure velocity that scours the debris from the pipe walls, and the nozzle, big nose on the top, is actually a vacuum, so we collect the debris downstream. We're also required to have emergency response procedures in place. Some of you might have noticed the great sign over there. There's not actually a sewer overflow, but if you were, you're in good hands because I know the procedures. But we respond to overflows that are both in the main, so something coming from the manhole, but also what we call our lower lateral. So as a property owner in the city of Albany, you can call if the segment of pipe in the street is overflowing. We also inspect our sewer pipes. We stick a specialized camera inside the pipe. We record the inspection and log every single defect and observation that's seen. That data is put into a database, and that condition data is ultimately used to prioritize what pipes need to get replaced first. These are some of the things that we see in sewers. Most people have not seen the inside of a sewer pipe. It's really kind of interesting. You see roots in the top. There's a collapsed pipe. This actual white blob down here is grease. And not all the lines are showing on here, but what this was intended to show was each of these squares is a factor that we consider when we prioritize pipes for replacement. The ones on the top relate to condition. The ones on the bottom relate to criticality, like is it near a school? Is the pipe near a creek? So if it was to collapse, what's the consequence? Some pipes have more consequence than others. We have a capital budget every year. We select the highest priority pipes that need to be replaced, and then that goes through a public process, which involves the public and council approval. Once we get that approval, we go to construction, and the construction involves taking the old clay pipes, which you'll see up in the top, and the current material that's used for sewers is called high-density polyethylene. It's essentially a thick plastic. It's seamless, so we don't have joints for root intrusion, we don't have joints for offsets. It's a seamless pipe, manhole to manhole, and expected to last at least 100 years. I think it's gonna last more. We also do source control, so that blob of grease should not be in the sewer. It's actually illegal to discharge grease into the sewer. We require restaurants to install grease removal devices, one of these shown in the front. It actually removes the grease before the wastewater enters the sewer system. That on the top is a grease trap that hasn't been maintained. So that's just grease from a restaurant here in Albany. We also do root control. So before we can replace everything, because we don't have enough money to replace everything right now, we have to maintain it. And that means preventing the roots from growing further in there and making the cracks bigger and causing blockages. So we hire actually an outside contractor to apply root foam to inhibit the growth of roots. We also require property owners to replace their portion of the system, which is the private lateral. That's the pipe that goes from your building to the curb cleanout you'll see on the top. And in the city of Albany, we require on point of sale or on a remodel permit of a particular value that you replace your lateral. We also do what's called smoke testing. Some of you might have seen this in your neighborhood. We can blow smoke into the sewer system to identify illicit connections. Your area drains in your backyard and your roof leaders should not be connected to the sewer. That's stormwater, and smoke will come out of those illicit connections. So when we identify them, we ask that they be disconnected. And I wanted to end on the slide that I started with, because I got into this line of work particularly from a desire to preserve water quality and environmental health in general. And although my day-to-day work is feels at times a little bit disconnected, it is still a primary driver for the work that I do.
Okay, so that's 3 down. We're about halfway through the program this evening. Please take a couple minutes to use the restroom or go to the bar back there. Wine is complimentary. If you'd like a I Heart Albany wine glass, those are also for sale. Those are for sale. Like I said, the wine and beer is complimentary.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Team Wolf, my name is Charles Wheeler. Thank you.
All right. So continuing on after our intermission, next we have Alex Lerman and his students from the Berkeley Improv Group. And they just wanted to put it out there that there's classes for all levels of improv curiosity. I guess that'd be a good one. Woo!
So we're going to have Christine start. We should just let you know that these slides are completely random to us. We have no idea what's coming up, so we'll be improvising this. Can we get a quick profession that you guys actually are so that we can improvise around something that inspires you? Something that you're passionate about. Arborist. The story is going to be about how I became an arborist. Thank you.
It's in the past, but when I was a young woman, people doubted I could become an arborist.
Yes, but I planted that seed of doubt and I let it sprout. And I met 3 kittens along the way.
And vision and in my dream came about an axe, a yellow axe handler. And it woke up because in the dream the axe handler had 3 kittens hanging on the clothesline. And well, I knew that somehow it had to do with.
It had to do with this monster inside of me that was just longing to get out. And I realized the only way to tame her was to tap into the inner beauty around me. And that's when I looked yonder and saw this tree that was so beautiful next to me. And I thought
I had been reborn. Of course, sometimes rebirths are not happy times. And we must make do with the gifts that were not asked for. And so I looked at life and trees anew.
And I realized what I really needed was companionship. For what are we but not a member of a social community? Joining my comrades and the trees in a common goal.
A goal of not only becoming physically fit, which we did often, but also becoming intellectually fit and deeply studying what it is to be an arborist. It's not just trees and planting trees and taking care of trees. It's lifting trees with all your might.
And my personal trainer came from a long line of coal miners and hard-hacked workers. And she shared with me that when she heard my dream as I worked out, it all had to do with arbor and kittens and yellow pickaxe handlers. And it was all going to come together because
study as I may, it never would be enough unless I was able to get out of my left brain and into the art of arboration.
The truth is I didn't know how to use a computer. So I realized that I had to go to the place where the world lacked the most trees, which was the ocean. And there I could make my mark.
And it was at the ocean that something truly momentous happened to me. I discovered how to use a computer. And I began to write my memoir, Abigail the Arborist. I started it with this short story, my favorite experience as an arborist.
It was my time in Antarctica when I tried to bring trees to a place where they'd never grown before. I met 3 friends that day, 3 polar bears. They didn't appreciate the trees. So I knew that I must return back home.
until one day I got a call from Congress. They were watching my work all this time, and I would be the national arboritionist in the new Library of Arborists that they didn't have funding for.
they wanted to connect the work of the new arborist library with the umbrella work of the nature museum that was right across the street. And they said, let's bring the little critters to the trees.
And we did. And thus concludes how I became an arborist. And here you see what Muir Woods looked like before I got involved. Thank you very much.
So people often say to me, I could never do what you do. I could never do improv. And I say that humans often have done things we didn't expect, like teeter on 4-inch heels. Who would have thought? But yet we do it. You too could do improv. You too can do the impossible.
Yes, one reason I got into improv is I really enjoy painting. And I feel like with improv, I'm able to paint a scene of imagination. And I do always wear white coveralls even when I improv. But that's the important thing, is you just have to know that painting and improvisation are beautiful works of art together.
I became an improviser when, in the middle of an improv scene, I thought I was a wolf pulling a sled across the Antarctic that was melting and going away. And just like that, improv moment melts and goes away. And I don't know where I'm standing because the ice is gone any minute. But it's all right because...
The reason I enjoy doing improvising is because it's a vice that is much more healthy for me than my typical vices, and it keeps my mind off of other things that I might sometimes be doing when I can just go and perform and be on stage and have a much healthier vice for that.
I want to thank my brilliant improv students for putting out this fire of panic and bringing this gush of water to help all of us grow like a fine tree. If you guys enjoyed this and you had fun, if you feel like you might want to try improv, check us out at berkeleyimprov.com. We're starting a brand new class series this coming month. And a big hand for Emmanuel for putting together a great series of slides, completely unexpected slides.
Thanks, Liam. Thank you. Yeah. That was great. Well, I just can't get that picture of the kittens out of my head. That was just a fantastic picture. And once again, yeah, the group said it a couple times, but every single one of those pictures were picked by us, Albany Recreation staff. So the improv had no idea what any of those were going to be. Except for the gentleman who picked the arborist. He's part of the group. They picked arborist. I'm joking again, once again. Okay, so our next presenter is Lindsay Nelson, and she is with the Great Place to Work Institute. They're based in California, and they're the company behind the ranking of 100 best companies in America. They help companies become better places to work for their employees. Lindsay has been a consultant for the Great Places to Work Institute for the past 10 years. She has her Master's of Organizational Development from Pepperdine University and her BA from Wesley College. Please welcome Lindsay Nelson.
Liam and I also grew up together, which is a fun fact, up in Vancouver, Washington. So mine is going to be completely different. For one thing, I don't have pictures of kittens. And it's going really, really fast. Wow. Totally improv, right? Can we go back to the beginning, maybe? Or do I just have to really speed it up? Wow. I'm not that good at improv. Okay, we're going to start. We're going to start one more, no. Not that good at improv. Yeah, let's start with the kittens instead. Well, yeah, jokes would be good. Why does a chicken coop have 2 doors? Otherwise it'd be a chicken sedan. Very nice. I like it. Maybe we need another joke. Why did the hipster burn his tongue? Why did the hipster burn his tongue?
Because he drank coffee before it was cool.
Nice. Maybe I was supposed to do them really, really fast. I suppose. Okay, one more joke.
Why did the fisherman put magnets on the end of his fishing line?
Why?
He was fishing for canned tuna.
That's good.
Sorry.
Oh. Okay, ready to go? All right, and I have a mic. We'll see where we go with the jokes. Awesome. Okay, so this is slide 1. Hopefully we stay here for just a second. I wanted to start tonight with the thought of gifts and what a really good gift is. If you think about gifts that you've given or you've received, often they're really done out of a spirit of generosity. It's not about you. It's about knowing the other person. It's about not creating obligation, but something that actually is very much two-way. It's based on really this reciprocal generosity. We see that a lot at my organization, at the best companies to work for as well, and I'll talk about what those are. But if you think about some jobs that are really just kind of a place to work, you see some of these characteristics on the side. You're putting in your hours and you're getting a paycheck in return. At a great place to work, you're actually receiving some of those things that are more like gifts. So it is generosity putting in your work and also generosity coming back from your employer. So with Great Place to Work, we are just over in San Francisco. We're in 45 countries as well. We've been around for about 25 years. We're a very mission-driven organization, and we are also the people behind that Fortune 100 Best Companies to Work For list that comes out every year. We learn a lot of things from these organizations. One of them is that people don't want to leave great places to work. So we measure the voluntary turnover at the best companies versus industry average. Usually it's about half. Pretty intuitive, actually. You don't want to leave a place that is a really great place to work, but of course we see that the numbers actually pan out too. The other is your stock tip for tonight, which is that we also look at those companies that are on the 100 Best Companies to Work For list that are publicly traded. They outperform the market. This shows that if in that first list we put out about 15 years ago with Fortune, if you were to have invested any amount, let's say $100, you would have made about 366% on your return versus about 100% for the S&P. We also see that differently from some of the numbers on engagement you often hear, these companies are actually getting better, and they've been getting better and better over time. Again, this is the last 15 or so years. We see actually that the best companies have been the best since the recession. So these are companies that are really good at creating great places to work and continue to be so even more. These are the top 10 from last year's list. A lot of them are in technology, and technology is kind of well known. There's a lot of great places to work in technology, but you also see Wegmans Food Markets is there. We also have Hillcorp Energy. There's some financial services organizations, and if you look at the full 100, they're kind of across the bar. But if you read the list, if you pick up Fortune or go online, often you're hearing about things like 100,000 massages, and you're hearing about sports complexes and about roller hockey rinks. That is basically, that sells magazines. What's actually behind selecting the list is a lot deeper. What's behind actually selecting the list is that these are high-trust workplaces. These are places that, as we've learned over the last 25 years or so, they're organizations where people say they trust the people they work for, they have pride in the work that they're doing, and they enjoy the people that they work with. So if we go to that, into that model a little bit more deeply, what do we see? So what is trust? If you're going to work every day, what is actually trusting the people that you work for? Well, you feel that they're credible. You feel respected as a human being, as a professional, and someone with a personal life. And basically you feel that things are kind of fair as well. You have a good relationship with your coworkers, and you enjoy the work that you do. You feel really proud of your job. So let's go back to Google for a moment. Google, really sexy perks, great benefits, but that's not what makes it a #1 company. We looked at some of the #1 companies, all of the #1 companies over time, and these are the things that came out. So all the things you read here. Thirdly, that work hard, play hard mentality it really illustrates that idea of people are giving of themselves as generosity, and at the same time, the company is really generous. It's not about trying to do just as much as they have to not get sued. It's really about taking care of people. And these are some of the comments that actually come from Google employees that come to our organization. Their comments come to our organization. Another #1 company is SAS Institute, Raleigh, North Carolina. some of the comments here as well. They're sort of well known for being a company with an Olympic-sized swimming pool. They have great work-life balance, about 50 people that work for that department just for their employees. But if you read the comment at the bottom, people say, benefits are really good, press and outsiders focus on that. That's not the real story at all. It's about enjoying the work we do, being really proud of what we're accomplishing. So if you're at work and you're trying to create a great place to work, how can you do it? Well, company A here would be sort of an average company. You make sure that on the first day, people are coming in and they're having what they need to be successful the first day. If you're a great place to work, you're introducing them to executives, you are making sure that they really feel welcome even before their first day, all those sorts of things. Some best practices I wanted to share from this year's list. Grainger has a practice called Voice of the Employee. In every single one of their offices, they have a whiteboard in the back where people can put their ideas. All of those ideas are actually prioritized, and people are put to work on them. CHG Health Services, when they're going through their performance development plans, they'll create a plan to be successful at work, but they also have a workshop where people go through a whole plan to be successful at work and life so that they feel that they're achieving the most and have the best balance as a person, not just as an employee. And if you work at American Express and you've done a great job and you deserve some recognition, you don't just have to be proud of your work, you actually might get sort of accosted by 4 or 5 members of leadership with flowers and balloons, sometimes limericks or songs, and they call themselves the prize patrols. So they'll sort of attack you with some appreciation. The Container Store, well known sort of to be a great place to work, great place to shop. When you start at the Container Store on day number 1, you usually get a locker. So some of these stores have started to make sure that these lockers are really well set up for people before they come in, actually alphabetizing them before people come in. This is my daughter, Finley. Alphabetizing them before they come in so they don't feel like an afterthought. And then Millennium has a program called Squeeze the Boss. They've got these sort of squeezy toys from Dilbert. They get people together in a session where they are encouraging people to ask as many questions as they can of leadership, difficult questions that sometimes are hard to ask. So it kind of adds some levity to the whole meeting and gets people asking things that might be a little bit tough. So I want to leave you with a few things to think about wherever you happen to be within the organization. If you're leading the organization, what is it that you are actually setting by your example? Are you setting the example of a place that's a high-trust place to work where you are actually modeling generosity and people are modeling generosity? If you're in the mid-level, how are you leading your team? Is it leading through trust? And the same thing if you're an individual contributor. How does trust actually play into your team? All right, thank you very much.
Okay, a big thank you to Lindsay. Great presentation on great places to work. She knows, obviously, great places to work because she's from a great place to live, Vancouver, Washington. Like she said, we're both from. So, okay, our last presenter tonight is Tanya Rodante Colley, and her husband, Ronaldo Colley, are co-owners, operators of the Ivy Room, which has recently been renovated and made fantastic. Tanya, her background includes over 15 years of marketing and branding executive for major consumer products like Pepsi and KFC. And Ronaldo has over 14 years of experience in creating cocktails. His recipes have been published in 7x7 magazine, Soma magazine, and Johnny Weir's book on tequila. He is the master of margarita, and he's also in the Museum of Cocktail Hall of Fame in New Orleans. And New Orleans knows how to drink, so if you're in any sort of alcohol Hall of Fame in New Orleans, you're doing something right. So please welcome Tanya Rodante Colley.
Thank you, Liam. Thank you, Shelley. Thanks, Emmy. I appreciate you guys doing this. Thanks for putting the PechaKucha together. And it's nice to see Albany being forward-looking. And if I had to sit through another PowerPoint, I might shoot myself in the head. So I appreciate this format. It's fantastic. What I wanted to talk about tonight was evolution of cocktail trends. It's been a wild ride in the U.S. when it comes to cocktails. I think we all know we all started off in Pilgrim days, and those were some teetotalers. So what I wanted to do was sort of baseline start at the level of prohibition. So these ladies certainly could use a little bit of levity here. And this was basically the reason for what we call the speakeasy. I mean, lips that touch liquor shall not touch ours. I'm not sure what these ladies were getting a whole lot of with lips or liquor, but they do look like a fun group. So they were the reason through women's suffrage for the speakeasy. They caused the Al Capones of the world that were spoken about earlier this evening to get super rich. And so the gangsters and the rum runners were the ones that were getting rich. The government wasn't able to tax anything, and the speakeasies were doing really well. Everybody was drinking underground and having a good old time in the 20s and the 30s. You can tell the women are there, the men are there. Everybody was just having a good time. So I wanted to kind of baseline that in terms of like where we've come in this country, in terms of cocktail trends and why we like our beverages. Because I know that we're all talking about work, and my work happens to be the exact opposite of what everybody thinks of when it comes to the antithesis of work. We make cocktails, you guys enjoy them, it's work for us, but not for you, which is great. I did have a picture up there of the Manhattan. That's where we started. A lot of people were drinking rye whiskeys, gin, and bourbons. That's basically what people were drinking. Days of the man's drink with the Rat Pack here. You can see old Blue Eyes with probably, I'm assuming, is a Manhattan or a martini in his hand. It was said that he liked his JD, so it got him through the good times and the bad times with Ava Gardner and Mia Farrow, who recently just had her own controversy. And then as women got more and more liberated, different spirits got popular, things like vodka. I chose this as one of the most iconic vodka campaigns. I think a lot of us are probably familiar with this. This ran very, very heavily in the 90s. Absolute did a fantastic campaign because vodka was getting super popular. It was a spirit that mixed really well with a lot of different mixes and ingredients. And then Sex and the City took it to a whole nother level with the vodka Cosmo. And again, women were getting more and more powerful. They were taking control. They were being super sexual. And they were out there. And I think Sex and the City was an epitome in terms of showing that women knew how to drink just as well as the men. And they were choosing non-scotch, non-bourbon types of alcohol. Going backwards a little bit, but giving some props to the Bay Area, San Francisco was quite an influence when it comes to the cocktail revolution. Back in the days of the Barbary Coast, the 49ers were coming here. They were pirates. They were making their money in various ways. There were women of ill repute, and they were all on the Barbary Coast, and they were drinking heavily. And to this day, San Francisco is super influential in terms of how cocktails are made and they're seen around the world. Chez Panisse was obviously a big influence in terms of organic food and in terms of how everybody is eating around the world. People wanted and were demanding more from their food, from their drink, and Chez Panisse was leading the way in that, and so the Bay Area has a lot of influence in what we're consuming to this day. So on that note, this is a photo of Ivy Room and some of the ingredients that we mix with our handcrafted cocktails. A lot of herbs, a lot of spices, a lot of bitters. Everything is house made, and that is what people are demanding now. I mean, the food networks are just overrun with shows about what people really want from their foods and their cocktails in terms of local and house made. This is my partner in life and business, Ronaldo, mixing up a cocktail handmade. This is just a really iconic photo in terms of the care that the mixologists, they're no longer bartenders. The ones that are making it right are called mixologists. And what they're doing is they're creating works of art when it comes to what you're drinking in an alcoholic beverage. As you can see here, there's a beautiful foam that's been created in this cocktail. This is one of ours. In terms of what the garnish is, it's a very, very long piece of citrus. This is another beautiful sort of money shot, if you will. of a cocktail. Great care is taken to the presentation in terms of how the glass looks, the level of where the beverage falls, the garnish, if you will, has to be super fresh. These are all things that people are demanding as drinkers and consumers these days. They want something that makes them proud to drink and to consume. Any mixologist worth their salt has visited a manufacturer or a grower of a spirit. This is a photo of Ronaldo in the area of Jalisco, Tequila, and he's at Tequila Partida, which is an organic grower of tequila. They were so proud that he was there that they put him behind the bar and they had him mix up while we were doing the tour. So I was very proud of him that day. And also the bloggers, they're everywhere. Everybody's blogging about everything. When it comes to mixology and cocktails, there is a lot to say. People have a lot of opinions about what they're drinking, about what they're putting in drinks. It's an art form. It really is. I mean, if you have a blank canvas, you can do anything when it comes to mixing up a cocktail. And there are a ton of people out there. This one in particular is local, and he's very well respected. He's with the San Francisco Cron, and he has his own blog. I think his name's Camper English. Well-respected guy. Mixology's gone mainstream. This is another trend. Like, this is a show that is called, right out there, Mixology. It's about young, sexy singles in a bar drinking. That's not a new concept. But the term mixology is going mainstream, and apparently this is a show that's coming on the horizon, and in the new year. On that note, speaking of TV and pop culture, Mad Men has taken over in terms of a lot of different things. They're influencing culture. If you do watch TV, some of us do not. Mad Men has influenced things in a lot of ways in terms of the way we dress. People are hearkening back to the classics. When it comes to drinking and dressing, Mad Men has a clothing line. They have a recipe book. They're doing a lot of things that are influencing and going back to the classics in terms of cocktails like highballs and old fashions and gin martinis. Speaking of, this is Ronaldo serving up a Moscow Mule. It's served classically in the copper cup. Moscow Mules, if you haven't had them, are vodka, lime, and help me out, Ronaldo, what else? Ginger beer. Thank you. The only way to make them is in the copper cup. I don't know the history behind that, but it has to do with Russian soldiers, and all they had to drink out of was a copper cup or their boot. So this slide, I'm going to quiz you guys very quickly. What is the most trendy spirit out there right now? And if you can read or see the label on this, you'll know. Mezcal. Ding, ding, ding. Somebody gets a drink token. That's right. Mezcal is the hot, trendy spirit right now. It's a derivative of tequila. So if anybody asks you what people are drinking right now, it's mezcal. And this is just a very gratuitous shot of the Ivy Room. So come on down. We're at the corner of Solano and San Pablo. No, seriously, I want to talk about the fact that we just took over the place about a year ago. It's got a long history. We're very proud to be here. We're very proud to be in Albany. I want to introduce, I'm just lip service right now. I want to introduce actually the genius behind mixology. It's Ronaldo. He's the one that creates the cocktails. He's the one that's sort of the creative mind behind everything. If you guys have any questions about mixology, we're the last speakers, and we've also brought a little sampling for you guys today, so please feel free. We've brought what is the #1 cocktail in America, another quiz. Does anybody know what that is? Margarita, that's right. We've bought margaritas. Everybody enjoy. Thanks for having us.
So that is it for Volume 2, PechaKucha, here in the city of Albany. We will be doing 2 more. That is part of our agreement with the official PechaKucha team that you saw the video from earlier. So look forward to that. After the first of the year, our new activity guide will come up. So those will be hot off the presses. You can pick them up here at the community center. If you're a resident of Albany, they will be mailed directly to you. And if you've taken any classes with us in the past and outside of Albany, they'll be mailed as well. So get your hands on those. We have a Fix It clinic on December 2nd, and that's pretty fantastic as well. It's right here in this room. Bring in your old not old. Bring in your broken mechanisms, I guess, and we will have experts here to help you fix them. Old stereos, fans, electric tea kettle, anything like that. Bring it on in here on December 2nd, and we will help you fix it. So thank you again for coming out. Please visit the booze station over there, and if you'd like any wine back here provided by us, we're more than welcome to as well. So thanks again for coming to the Albany PechaKucha Night.